Hello, welcome to Terrors of the Milky Way. My name is Dale DuFay. This channel is a lot like the previous channel that I myself had deleted, and that was only because I felt uncomfortable keeping track of the planets and naming them. You know, it went from Terra A to Terra Z, and then into the Greek alphabet, 1 through 12 in each Greek letter. Now, I felt uncomfortable about that because it could only be, you know, we could have only shifted a handful of times, or we could have shifted hundreds of times. And I felt uncomfortable that, determining that, because it is very difficult to tell. Now, we can look at Google Earth as like a great tool for that. And usually every time I look at it, I see variations and differences, like here in South America. This right here by Aruba and these chain of islands and everything, this is like totally different than I recall. Like Barcelona and Caracas and things like that. But it's always the coastlines that differ. And the thing that it could have been something overlooked, or it is actually something that's different and unique. Of course, it didn't change, and that we know that's impossible. It's impossible for the Earth to change. This Earth is like most of all the other Orion dwarf Earths. They're only 24,800 miles in circumference, or from pole to pole, 90 degrees north to 90 degrees south. They're around 12,400 miles. And these are very small, but it seems like all these Earths, however many there may be, here in the inner Orion arm or Orion spur, uh, all are very, very small. It's hard to determine exactly. Again, it might have been something overlooked or something, or it is indeed something different and unique. Now, I lean towards the fact that, or the possibility that we are shifting very frequently, because I do see a lot of variations all the time. And again, it's just absolutely impossible for these things to change. Of course, the Earth does change, but it's so infinitesimal in our lifetime that we don't even notice. In fact, geologists haven't even realized that the Earth obviously does grow as it ages. It would take many, many generations to figure that out, and that's not going to happen for a while, because they finally have the equipment, satellites, and things like that, where they can actually measure it and perhaps observe it growing as it ages. Now, it's the Mandela effect's revealing that that's exactly what happens, because many of us originated from an Earth that is 3 to 4 times larger than this one. Yet it's still unusually similar. Of course, there's the Americas, Africa, Asia, Europe, and so on and so forth, and India, Australia, in every single Earth, on every single Earth, in every single reality. New Zealand's the big one. I remember it at 2. There's some people that remember it at 10, at the 10 o'clock position. And I know, like, there was a subscriber in the previous channel, YouTube channel, Terrors of the Milky Way, Jose Martinez, that recalls it over here, and he saw me in that reality where his portion of his soul, the one that's following this. Of course, every portion of our soul is experiencing this. Recalled seeing me in Denver, Colorado in the mid 70s. So that proved to me that I'm in, just like all of us are in those realities where, New Zealand's at the 10 o'clock position. Of course, we're totally oblivious to it, but it's just amazing. It helps us to realize that there are even, multiple Earths out on the outer reaches of the Sagittarius arm, each unique in and of themselves. Now, I recall that the super Earth heaven that I recall that this portion of my soul originated from, where New Zealand was at the 2 o'clock position. I never recall it over here, even though there's a replica version of myself that's been sharing my soul since the day I was born, in a reality where it is over here. And it seems like in that reality, the reality where New Zealand's at the 10 o'clock, Nelson Mandela perished in prison in the 1980s. So, and I, even though I every reality I've visited, Nelson Mandela, was liberated from prison and ascended to presidency of South Africa. Now, but there is, replica versions of myself that are sharing my soul where he did perish in prison. Now it's just remarkable. We're just totally oblivious to the fact that we have other replica versions of ourselves. But that just goes to show that each portion of our soul is fiercely independent and would have their own memories. Now that would make sense. And then the thing is that quantum connection with all these other replica versions of ourselves is very subconscious. There's no way we can connect with those other. In fact, we didn't even know they even existed until the Mandela Effect came around. That's what's remarkable about the Mandela Effect. But in this new YouTube channel, Terrors in the Milky Way, we're going to explore these Earths and see the variations and differences. But we're not going to count. I'm not going to count them anymore. It could be, I do believe it is infinite, the amount of realities we have and we share and we have been, and all life has been since the very beginning of creation. So we know that. What does that tell us? It tells us that this type of existence and this quantum entanglement that is obvious with our soul and everything else in life is essential. It's a basic fundamental foundation of existence. Apparently, it's very obvious. We wouldn't exist without it. I liken it to basically our realities are like a film, a movie film. And every frame represents each reality, and the projector is the particular, the projector lens is your particular reality, but yet each frame would have their own projector lens as well, but we're unaware of it. And then as the film rolls, our life rolls. So without the, film, we wouldn't have life. Just like without quantum entanglement, we wouldn't have any existence. We wouldn't be able to exist without it. It's very obvious. I've always wondered why we automatically breathe and things like that, and certain physical functions happen automatically, even since birth. So how could that be? But the Mandela Effect has answered that. It's the quantum entanglement that allows that to happen. But we'll go over a lot of the differences and variations we see in the unique Earths and realize that, of course, it's impossible to change. So what else is left? Improbable as it is, we are simply in another reality that has always existed, that we were always in. This Earth has always existed. It's it's been around since the beginning of creation, just like the Sagittarius super Earths. Now, when creation started, all the Earths were all at their different stages of evolution. Some perhaps even in Pangea, and like this one may have been in this particular Earth, in this, so close to the galactic center, may have been at its evolutionary stage of Pangea when creation started. And the Sagittarius super Earths may have been like this particular Earth, at this time then. So that, and since then they have ventured out and as they aged, ventured out the galactic arm, and also have grown along with the entire solar system. And that's what's really cool. That's what the Mandela Effect's revealing. So it's, these Earths have been around for long, the Sagittarius super Earths are older, perhaps by hundreds of millions of years, but the creation started on all these Earths at the same time. Since the very beginning of creation, this quantum entanglement and multiple parallel realities existed at that point since then, and always will be. Now it's really interesting. It brings up a lot of interesting possibilities. Obviously the Milky Way galaxy is not going to take a break as far as creating matter, and of course it's the opposite of what we're being told. It's not a supermassive black hole in the center of the galaxy galloping up everything. It's the complete opposite. It's a supermassive white hole that's constantly creating matter. So what is this matter? A lot of it is solar systems with Earths around them. that are orbiting the star. So that, so could there possibly be new Earths, solar systems with Earths being created as we speak? And as some are being calved, I often thought that that's maybe why the Mandela effect's occurring. The Milky Way galaxy has reached its capacity, and Earth's solar systems with Earths with life on them as we know it are calving off the galactic arm, perhaps the Sagittarius arm, as new solar systems with Earths are being created. Now, those Earths would not have life on them as we know it whatsoever. They would be devoid of anything we're familiar with, because creation had already started long before those solar systems with Earths around them were created. So those Earths, who knows how many there are, would be devoid of life as we know it. They might have dinosaurs and things on them, and that might be where the souls of those extinct creatures went. Because it seems like it's quite apparent that souls are not destroyed. The physical beings of animals and humans are, do die and perish, but the soul lives on. So that's a pretty interesting thought if you think about it. Because again, this Earth, when creation started, this particular Earth might have been in Pangea, because you could see where here, this split here, this mid-Atlantic ridge, it actually expands 1 inch every year. This ridge expanded over 6 feet in my lifetime. So, at one time, that would indicate that at one time these continents were connected, that Pangea. So I believe that obviously this Earth was in Pangea or very close to it when creation started. And again, other Earths are probably in this stage, which have now since moved on to super Earths. Of course, again, no human would be aware of this because of the short lifespan that we have in our imperfect bodies. Yeah, but the thing is it's the Mandela effect's revealing that the Milky Way galaxy is full of Earths with life on them as we know it, and no doubt countless other Earths that are devoid of life as we know it, because those solar systems were created after, from the Milky Way galaxy, from the galactic center where matter never takes a break, where matter's constantly being created. All matter that we see would be devoid. Now those a lot. Who knows how many Earths there are that have been created from the Milky Way galaxy since the beginning of creation on the Earths that were available at that time. There might have been obviously millions, if not billions of them, just like there might perhaps be millions behind that creation line. And I always wondered, especially since the Mandela effect seems to be obviously revealing these things, could those possibly be the new Earths that John spoke about in Revelation? I believe they are. Because when I always, read that verse, I often thought, well, what is the new Earth? What are they going to take this Earth and clean it up and start from scratch? It didn't seem to make much sense at all. But the Mandela effect's revealing that the potential, a very real possibility that there are indeed new Earths, very pristine Earths that wouldn't have any evidence of human civilizations like the pyramids or Mount Rushmore or anything like that, or mining or all that would be devoid of all that. Those Earths would be very clean and fresh. Again, those Earths may have dinosaurs on them, and like these Earths did, millions of years ago, tens and hundreds of millions of years ago, when this Earth again was in Pangea. And it's interesting with the expanding Earth theory that the Mandela effect has vindicated, that there was very little water on the Earth when they were in Pangea. There's no doubt, geologists have no doubt that the Earths were, the Earth, again, we gotta always keep in mind that they're assuming that this is the one and only Earth in the entire universe, let alone the Milky Way galaxy. But they always assume that they agree, of course, it was in Pangea, but they assume it was always this size, and of course it wasn't. This was a very small little, with the same amount of land mass, just hardly any oceans. the oceans were added as the Earth's aged, and that was obviously because the early all the Earth's the poles were straight north and south, so both. I mean, the axis was straight north and south. It wasn't tipped. So naturally, the poles, neither both poles, would never see the sunlight. So there would be massive ice caps that would develop naturally. That would happen on any planet. So, what happens to that's how basically how the water was accumulated over the eons. As the Earth aged and grew, the water was basically naturally added in there over time. But this Earth was probably the size of the Mercury in this solar system at one time, with very little water at when creation started. So that's what's really cool with the Mandela Effect's revealing, and it's really cool to find out that we've always been on this Earth in this reality. We just never knew it. Of course, the replica version of yourself you're in now at this very moment, the portion of your soul that originated in this replica version of yourself in this reality that has always existed is now in another replica version of yourself experiencing the same thing you are. I mean, I always liken it to the musical chairs, when the chairs are the reality, the multiple realities that have always existed. And when the music starts, that's when we shift. We get up off out of our reality and move around a circle until the music stops, and then when we sit down in the chair, we're sitting in another reality we've always existed in. And that's, by that analogy, we're proving that, every one of our soul portions is experiencing the same thing. Now, how many soul portions do we have? Who knows? I mean, again, I think it's closer to infinity than finity. It's very apparent what the Mandela Effect's revealing. I mean, why would it be just a set number like 12 different realities or 100 different realities, especially when, you look at the Milky Way galaxy and its potential of having at least 500 billion, now that's with the B, planets in it, so how many of those are Earths? And then, of course, with this quantum entanglement revealing that everything is parallel, including the galaxies, including everything we see in the night sky, the constellations, everything is parallel. So, it didn't think about it. Even the different dimensions, which obviously exist, they are parallel as well. That's why we know that this, quantum entangled parallel existence on multitude of Earths is not a dimensional thing. It's impossible because, again, the dimensions are parallel too. Our parallel existence is separated by distance, great distances we would never reach. Now there's, they're finding out there's exoplanets out there, a great number of exoplanets that are Earth-like. Well, those are other Earths with us on them. It's as simple as that. Now the day may come where they're going to find that out, and there may even be some and that know about it already, but if they're never going to let us know that. Could you imagine? They don't even let us know half the things they know. So, but hopefully they will when that day comes, when those probes reach out to those exoplanets to understand what they're about. Again, they're going to basically, the other realities that are light years away are going to send out probes to this Earth, which they would assume is an exoplanet. So when those probes reach this Earth, the community that's the astrophysicists and whatnot that send out those probes, and scientists are going to think that their probe they sent out came back, when in fact it came from another reality identical to this one. Isn't that amazing when you think about it? Just like if we were able to physically go to those exoplanets in spaceships, the individuals that would go may land on that exoplanet and realize that it's an Earth with life on it as they knew it. But the replica versions of ourselves that originated from that planet are going to be heading to another exoplanet. So basically they're trading places, much like our souls are right now with the Mandela effect. But again, I don't think that's even going to get to that point because the distances are too vast. Even 1 light year, 14 trillion miles, and when it take thousands of years to reach at light speed, it's just it's inconceivable vast distances that separate our realities. But the Mandela effect is allowing our soul to traverse these vast distances in a blink of an eye. It just goes to show how incredible this all is. That's why I'm thoroughly convinced that it's a miraculous phenomenon. But I just wanted to point out, I always usually like to find one spot that kind of I call a eureka moment that makes me, helps me to realize that I must be in another reality, because I always keep an eye on this north shore of South America, which is amazing, really, because the reality I recall where this portion of my soul originated from, there was hardly any north shore of South America. It was basically arced like this in the Isthmus of Panama, connected straight in the center of Colombia. And Colombia was on that very northern edge of South America. There was no north shore like this. This is, thousands of miles long, straight up north shores. It's incredible. Again, I recall it just being the north shore being kind of humped like this, a little like this. There really was no straight across part, like that. It was arced like this with the Isthmus of Panama going straight up and down right in the center of Colombia. So it's just, but I always keep an eye, because of that unique feature of South America, from what I recall, I always keep an eye on it. Now I never recall this, Dutch shoe kind of feature here, but it seems to be in every reality here on these Orion dwarfers by Aruba. But a lot of this North Shore varies considerably from Earth to Earth, and that's not unusual because we see the variations and differences on the coastlines mostly. My other one that I noticed right away when I realized about the Mandela effect, I was affected with it, was this area by Peru. I always recall the west coast of South America being real consistent, like you see on the shore, off the shore on the ocean floor here. It was rounded like this. And of course the north, the north of South America was rounded as well. Here we got the Isthmus of Panama on the west coast, but I remember the Isthmus of Panama on what little north coast what there is on South America in those realities. But this was what really caught my attention. So I pay a lot of attention to the coastlines of all the continents and islands and things like that, and that you will almost guarantee to see a variation or some kind of difference. Now, again, I'm always concerned it may be something I overlooked, but when I'm pretty sure it's something different from what I recall from the previous reality, then I'll upload a video about it. And of course, there are many, that I'm not really sure of, but, you see them around Australia all the time. Tasmania looks narrower from east to west than I recall even on the previous reality. Kangaroo Island here always has a different orientation. And the Great Australian Bight varies considerably. On some of these Orion dwarfers reality, it's like this here that you see on the ocean floor here along the coast. It's less of an arc, and here it's got really a steep arc to it. So that's what's interesting about it. Again, it could have been, something overlooked, or this could be a completely different Earth. Been counting them, I doesn't seem to be of any concern. I mean, I that's why I deleted the other channel and starting fresh on this one. And I apologize for no comments. I can't. After 3 years, it's just too tough to take it. And it helps me to be able to talk freely about, without worrying about that. So I do apologize for that. Please forgive me. And if that does bother you, you don't have to listen, really. Basically, what I'm talking about is not open for debate. As far as I'm concerned, what I see in all this is the way I see it. Now, it doesn't mean it's correct, you know. It's just the way I see it, and it's not open for debate because everything else is virtually impossible. Like being dimensional, like being something sinister and things like that. I look at this whole thing as a miracle and a prophesized event that was meant to happen, and it's happening right now. And it's not open for debate, so I can't have any comments and any hate. Most of the comments are very positive, and most of you enjoy listening to what I talk about, and I appreciate that. But that, you know, low percentage of comments that are very, you know, very, very rude and lack tact and everything. I just can't take it anymore. And besides, again, it's not open for debate. And certainly you can have your own opinion. That's what this is all about. This is a conundrum that was meant to be a conundrum. It was meant to be a riddle that is difficult to solve. And I figured I solved the riddle to my satisfaction, so I'm not going to discuss it. And, again, before I even started my own channel, Terrors in the Milky Way, 3 years ago, I watched thousands of videos on the Mandela Effect for almost a year before it started my own channel. And it took that whole time to come up with the conclusions that I have come up with. And, so it took a long time and a lot of research. So I'm not going to allow it to be criticized or downplayed. Or, I've had even people say, that I was on drugs and everything, and that this is insane and everything. What's amazing to me is it seems more logical than all the other theories out there. The other theories are impossible. This one's improbable, but just because it's improbable doesn't mean it's impossible, because it's the only, answer left out there as far as I'm concerned. So I do appreciate you watching, and we will Google trot at you later. Love you.